So they caught this guy, huh? Pretty good, huh?
Yeah, seriously. This was first-rate police work by the NYPD and the FBI, and maybe someday soon people will realize that New York really is the number one target. A number of us have been saying now for quite a while that the next attack against Manhattan would come from the outer boroughs or the suburbs or Connecticut or New Jersey, and it would be brought in, and the bomb would be transported into the city. Ray Kelly has done a phenomenal job. Unfortunately, we don't get the money we need from the federal government. In fact, the Obama administration cut off all funding this year for a Secure the Cities program, which would provide radiation detectors for any type of dirty bomb coming in. So this is another wake-up call. Thank God no one was killed, but we realized how devastating it could have been. And we had the FBI, we had the NYPD, and they really did a phenomenal job. I mean, to solve a case like this in, 48 hours, it was, again, this is the ultimate in police work.
Do you have any information about this guy that we don't have?
Probably not too much more. I mean, there's no doubt there's the Pakistani link. I mean, again, on Sunday, you had people going on television saying they were convinced it was just a lone wolf, that this was too amateurish to be part of any kind of terrorist activity. We have to learn that the people that Al-Qaeda is using now, and I'm not saying the guy is with Al-Qaeda, but you have to assume he is and work your way back. And the people they're using now may not have the most training, and that's because they're not able to bring them over as easily to Afghanistan and train them and send them back here after extensive training. So they recruit people who are homegrown terrorists, and that's, for instance, Zazi last September, the guy who was coming in to blow up the New York City subway system. They've changed their methods, and as a result of that, the skills are not as great of the terrorists they're using, but it's much harder to find them because they're not part of, they're not on radar screens. They're not part of an overall terrorist organization.
Was that Schumer's criticism?
Well, Senator Schumer was saying it was one of the people saying that, so were others. They're just too quick to rush in, I think. People are too quick to rush in and reach conclusions. I mean, when you think that there was a vehicle left in Times Square with propane, with gasoline, with fertilizer, with stolen plates, that isn't usually just done by one lone wolf. That takes that's a coordinated effort, and it shouldn't have taken a genius to realize that. And then once they found the evidence in the vehicle, which led to this person, there's others being aggressively looked into. Also, this is a full court press going on right now. And one concern we have to have is there was a similar incident to this in London back in 2007. Similar type car bombs were left outside nightclubs. They didn't work. People laughed at it, said it was amateurish. A couple of days later, the same type attack was carried out at the airport in Glasgow. So it's often not just one. They can come in twos and threes. So we really have to be very careful for the follow-up attack.
Maybe because they were so successful. We're talking with Congressman Peter King here in the Irish One program. Maybe because they were so successful with the attack of the World Trade Center, we think that all of these various things they're trying to do will be sophisticated and will work. But, I mean, you got the one guy trying to light his shoe. I mean, it's not funny, but and then this clown, and so...
Yeah, again, we've been very successful as far as stopping the sophisticated terrorists from coming in. We're able to track them a lot more. So they're using people who are under the radar screen, and often they're using people who are either born in this country or are naturalized Americans, so they're legally here. They can move around, and they're using them, and makes it much harder for us to find them. On the other hand, they're not as sophisticated, but for us to try to laugh it off. I mean, these bombs are unsophisticated until they go off. And when you have that much firepower in Times Square, if that had gone off, I mean, God knows how many people could have been killed with the flying shrapnel, the ball of fire going through the air, and also the psychological impact it would have had on the city. So, again, it doesn't take a genius to carry these attacks out. And now that they're under the radar screen, that makes it that much more difficult and that much more imperative that we have good intelligence and that we let the police and the FBI do what they have to do.
And you're all right about these cops in New York and not... Man, I mean, there's no smarter on the planet. I noticed, like, here in at the Fox headquarters building, they're all New York City cops, retired cops, and some moonlighting cops, that kind of thing. Man, they don't. There's no loose ends with those guys. They do everything right the first time and then do it every time. So I'm not surprised they caught the guy.
No, I'm not either, but it's a very difficult thing, and they got it done. And they are the ultimate professionals. And I use this number, but to me it says a lot. There's about 1,000 police officers in New York assigned to counterterrorism. Other places, the city of Chicago, last I heard, they have 4 cops working on counterterrorism. Most police departments in the country don't even have 1,000 cops, never mind 1,000 working on counterterrorism. And these are ultimate professionals. You meet with these guys from counterterrorism, from the intelligence unit, meet with people in the commissioner's office. And this is something Ray Kelly lives with 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is, he is absolutely a zealot on this. He's focused, which is where we have to be. This is probably the 10th or 11th attack against New York that we've stopped. If any of them had gone through, it would have been absolutely devastating. And yet, I think too often people, certainly outside of New York, this is somewhere way in the back of their minds. September 11th is like Gettysburg or Pearl Harbor. It's an historical event, and they don't realize that every day there's an Islamic enemy which is trying to kill us.
15 till the hour. I think Congressman Peter King kind of cranky at the beginning of our conversation, but apparently the congressman has calmed down in the pleasant conversation we've had and informative to this point. The Arizona immigration law, you're probably all for that, right?
Again, I certainly understand it, and if you ask me yes or no, I'm for it to the extent that the situation in Arizona is different from most other parts of the country in that it's not just a question of having illegal immigrants who may be overcrowding in a city or whatever. We're talking about almost an invasion of parts of Arizona right now. Drug smuggling gangs coming across the border, human smuggling gangs coming across the border, the drug wars in Mexico spilling over across the border. Also, across the border now, there are more people coming from the Middle East and Asia coming across that border. And they really are a state that's under siege. And I think it's unfair for people in New York who are thousands of miles away to be calling this racism and Nazism and apartheid. If anything, Arizona has a long history of tolerance on all sides. I mean, there's a very large Hispanic population. I've been there for years. There's very little trouble at all. But this is something to do with race. This has to do with really a country losing control of its borders and having a drug war in Mexico really run the risk of spilling over. And basically, it's giving the Arizona police the same right they would have under federal law. Now, I know there's going to be questions, and these are legitimate questions. Will this lead to a person being targeted just because they happen to be Hispanic? It's up to the police to make sure that it's done in the right way, but I'm not going to sit up here, thousands of miles away and say that, it's not my home that's broken into. It's not, it's not a drug war going on near my house.
Well, why say anything? Why not just butt out?
Well, it's basically it. Let Arizona do what it has to do. That's my point.
Well, here's the thing. My brother lives in Tucson, Arizona. Mm-hmm. He thinks the law is idiotic. You know what he thinks ought to happen? Is secure the borders.
Oh, I agree. And
just secure the borders, that's all.
Absolutely.
Well, we're not serious about that. Until we secure the borders, they can. There's always going to be police abuse or any other kind of abuse. Abuse on Wall Street, abuse in the news departments of networks, and abuse on the border in Arizona. But I mean, until they secure the borders, all of these laws are just a prescription for disaster.
Absolutely. We have to have more border patrol. We have to have fences and walls along the border. I know people don't want to say that, but you have to do that. We have to also be very tough as far as when illegals are captured.
This is your fault for not insisting on this in Congress, dragging your feet on this.
I actually passed a bill in the House back in 2005, which unfortunately did not move in the Senate. And I've been, for instance, opposing when they talk about immigration reform. All that is a euphemism for amnesty, because all immigration reform would do was legalize the illegal immigrants that are here and then say we don't have any more illegal immigrants. Until we secure that border do it in a tough, efficient way, you're going to have reactions, what we're seeing now in Arizona, and I fully understand what the people of Arizona are doing. And the federal government has got to take a much more active role and not be apologetic, not be apologizing, not say it's going to hurt relations with Mexico. We have to do what has to be done.
Thank you.
That border is really very porous.